Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you about some of the work I did at what you'll be seeing as Arizona State University. It's also great to see the students here. I usually, in situations like this, it's mostly faculty and staff, and so I think that says a lot about the university. I've read the draft of the strategic plan for the college. Very exciting, very inspirational, and I think that this is a good example of how the college is really being inclusive in some of their decision making. So I'm glad you joined us today. I want to talk to you about the PhD that we launched while I was at the Teachers College, and it's the Learning, Literacies, and Technology PhD. And so I'll talk about that. And before I get to the specifics about what I did, I want to talk to you about the brand that we developed. And when I first got to Teachers College, I don't know how familiar some of you are with ASU, but they have a pretty strong brand, a very dynamic president, and they do a lot of marketing and whatnot. And it's kind of bold, in your face. It's I think the largest university in the United States. They have the Starbucks thing. They do a lot of big stuff. And when I got to the Teachers College, I think the communications were very good, but they really didn't look and feel like they were part of ASU. And so that was for me a big opportunity. And I'm a big believer that we are. Certainly can be inundated with brands each of our days. We're at the grocery store, on our mobile devices, as we're driving to work. There are so many brands out there, and if you have an institution that's really giving you 18 different versions of their brand, then that's just creates a fragmentation, and it's harder to get noticed with all the other things going on. So I like, Seth Godin is a best-selling author and marketing expert, and I like his definition of brand. And really it's about this, a brand is really the consumer's perception of what you are. And you'll notice, and I think very importantly and relevant to my presentation today, it's everything. I mean, yes, it's the logo, yes, it's the communications you send out, but it is the service that you provide, it's the faculty you hire, it's the research you do, it's the customer service you provide to your students. I had a friend who worked there, and this is what they told me about what it's like. I attended there as myself as a student. All of that is going to inform what the brand is. So with that kind of broad context, this is a structure that I've used in the past. I like its simplicity. It's certainly not the only way to do it, but what I believe is absolutely the structure needs to align with the DU brand. So whatever kind of methodology or process or whatever, you want the college to be an expression of the DU brand. It's not just DU, but it should be consistent and enhance not only the DU brand, but obviously the college brand. So we went through an exercise at ASU where we created a brand, this structure, and what I like about it is again, it's very simple. You've got quadrants, and you develop phrases, and I'll pass out the platform we developed shortly. In sentences, phrases that describe each of the quadrants you see, and then the promise in the middle. And typically the promise is a mission statement or kind of the essence of what you are. And then the product is specifically about what it is. It could be a service. What's the benefit to your customer? How is it delivered? And then what's the personality? And as you develop these, you want to keep three things in mind. One is they should be true, they should be meaningful to your target audience, and they should be distinctive. So that's really what you're trying to accomplish. And if you think about that broader image definition of brand, then this is aligned with that. So this is the ASU brand promise, and it doesn't show up super well, but in here, this color font, what I'm showing here is the linkage between what we did in the Teachers College and how it aligned with what was done at ASU. So this is big ASU and reinvention, new standard for teaching and discovery, working together to change our world. These are the ASU core values: excellence, impact, outcomes, student-centric. It's about the students, and their achievements, accomplishments, contribute to the public good, and then this connection to the community. And again, something I think is has great potential in your plan is that very, very close relationship that you want to build with the communities, your communities. So this is the platform that we came up with, and setting a new standard for teaching, discovery, and innovation is the promise. Words like a legacy of research and excellence. So it's something that we've been doing, a while, and we want to continue to do it. For impact, committed to student success, changing the world. This ASU is very involved in the local community. They have a year-long student teaching, and we have very close relationships with local government, the school districts, the schools themselves. So that is true to ASU. And then this one too is there's a lot of personality as part of this, and this idea of embracing diversity. We had some faculty join us from Vanderbilt, which is, as you probably know, one of the top colleges of ed, and the reason they came to ASU was because they felt that it really was about that they welcomed diverse points of view, and so that was very important to them. And then this moral imperative that all children should be able to reach their potential. And then what we did was, and I'll pass this around, is we actually created a mouse pad, because this again it's not like just a marketing plan that you do once a year and then you kind of file it and then dust it off the next year or whatever. Not that marketing plans are done that way, but anyway, we really wanted it to be something that everybody was aware of and participated in. So we created this mouse pad for everybody as just kind of a reminder that if you pick up the phone and somebody calls you and you start talking about it, that is an opportunity to enhance the brand. Talking about the program itself, once you get this all set up, then it becomes, you have a structure and a framework for communicating it. And you're really using that verbiage and those ideas in your marketing. So the Learning Literacies and Technologies PhD at ASU, this was a new program. There's another program there that I also will have a little bit of information on. And this is interdisciplinary and focusing on human learning and literacies. This idea that, again, I saw a lot of similarities in what this is trying to do and some of the work in your own strategic plan. Target audience is we did want a diverse student body, and we targeted primarily master's in education students and graduate school advisors. We created a number of pieces, and some of them were unique to the program, but again, we've got limited budget, and because we had the brand work done, a lot of it just kind of, we were able to incorporate it in our existing assets. So in terms of the program brochure, again, we decided to combine it with our two PhD programs. It made sense. PhD students are going to be interested in having a complete understanding of the differences and contrasts and aspects of those two programs. Use the Chronicle of Higher Education for an online ad just because it's a good target audience. A lot of our PhD marketing, frankly, is word of mouth and talking to other professors and conferences and things like that. And then we wanted to be sure to leverage our existing Marcom. So the website, annual report, AERA, print ad, and then our graduate program events. We also did some kind of indirect marketing, and I'll share a little bit about those with you. So in terms of the PhD brochure, let me explain this. This is an example. This is a fourfold, and so this is kind of what it looks like. This is actually our the undergraduate brochure that we created. I'll pass this around. So, but if you just look at this, it's like, what is that? Anyway, this is what we did, and then the front and back. So I'll just kind of show you what that was like. And as I mentioned, we had 2 programs. Some of our esteemed faculty, it's a self-mailer. This part folds, and so you can mail it in that section. And then the other side of it, as it unfolds, and again, using these messages, research with impact, transform with purpose. We did the educational policy and evaluation PhD on top, and then the learning literacies and technologies. You'll see these 3 circles on a number of our pieces. In the PhD, we decided on prepare, lead, and innovate, and then use those themes throughout the brochure to communicate what this program was. This is a screenshot of our online ads that we ran in the Chronicle. These are pretty wordy for online ads, but we thought, given the audience and PhD students or prospective students are inquisitive, and so we wanted to kind of again make a bold statement and to encourage them to click on it and find out more. And this is also just about just about awareness, and that it would be complemented by our other communications that we do. One of the things we did that was, I think, interesting so when you click on that ad, it went to a landing page, and we did a survey of our PhD students and asked them 3 questions. Why they wanted to be part of this new program, what they loved best about it, and then what did they want to, what were their goals after graduating, and specifically how the interdisciplinary focus was going to help them reach those goals. So again, just kind of reinforcing what that program was, and in the marketing and communications. Also had some information about the program, obviously, and then request info and apply now buttons as you would normally have on a landing page. The other thing is we do an annual report every year, and you'll see a lot of similarity because we developed this about the same time as we developed the brand platform. And then this clearly, if you know ASU, if you've seen ASU marketing, this feels like an ASU piece. And again, that was deliberate. We're the teachers' college, but we also wanted to leverage all of the marketing that they're doing. And then within this brochure, we had a feature of the PhD program. Let's see, it's right. Yeah, here. Just a little announcement that talked about the new program in the teachers' college. So I'll pass this around too. And just to give you just an idea, and this is really just for context, this is an undergraduate, but we did a number of these for undergraduate programs already. I guess I'm kind of giving them all to you first. Anyway. In terms of leveraging the existing materials that we had, this is a graduate program flyer, and we created a template. You'll see it, there's a similar template, so relatively easy to update. We're not kind of reinventing the wheel every time we do a flyer. And this was for all of our graduate programs. So you see at the top we have the PhD programs. They also have an EDD program, and very easy to incorporate the messaging in terms of that. ASU was very involved in the American Educational Research Association, and so they are a sponsor of it. So we got a full page ad. So why not, take the opportunity to promote our new PhD program along with our existing program? And these are some of our again, esteemed faculty. This was also a really good time to network with prospective students, and a conference like this was the annual conference that they have, so that worked out very well. We did a graduate-specific program. This was a showcase, so this was very effective. As I see some faculty are in here, anytime you get faculty in an event, that's a big draw, and so we were fortunate to be able to get a couple of our faculty attend, and then we had financial aid people and some of the recruiters, and these were very successful and very easy to incorporate our doctoral programs into that. And we did some other things, and I think there's some similarities with what you guys are working on, is that this is, we had thought leadership events, and this was actually a professor from the U of A, which is like, I don't know, Wyoming and Colorado State or something, the super rivalry, but we brought her in because of her expertise, and it was an opportunity to share thought leadership, to host her, and really to bring in prospective students and talk to them, and so this is just one of the things that we did, kind of recognize that template that we had created, so it was easy to update. And I think this is the last piece of it, is we also had an email campaign, and this is again more on the indirect marketing side, but we went through and identified 10 examples of recent research that we had done, and did a write-up of the research and used this format of challenge. What was the challenge? Why was the research done? What was the impact? What did you learn? And then what is either the potential or current impact of that study? And then what recommendations are made from that? And so we used this kind of framework and then sent it out in an email. And then also we would put like Teachers College updates in that. So you could have, we could talk about our new PhD program or whatever else was going on in the college. We had a pretty broad distribution list from this, and I think it's a good way of disseminating thought leadership and telling people, many times the peer-reviewed stuff isn't reviewed outside of that group. Certainly among the general public. So this was a way to kind of do something that was an executive summary of sorts of the great work that had been done. And I think that's it. Questions?
I'm guessing you had a target audience goal of how many students in-state and out-of-state that you would get, especially since ASU is so big. I'm not sure if they could absorb, or if they could provide all the students you wanted. What was your target, and did you hit it, or what kind of metrics did you?
So for the, just in general target audience, or the PhD, we didn't, there weren't many, I don't know, I think 10, maybe 5 to 10 in each cohort, so they were very small groups. They did hit it. Overall, actually, it was more beneficial for ASU to get out-of-state students because there's more revenue, because they could charge out-of-state tuition. And we were a time in Arizona where we were losing a lot of state funding for tuition, so our tuition was going up, so that was a challenge. We did hit our objectives. We actually had an easier time with our out-of-state objectives, which was kind of maybe counterintuitive, but we have the good fortune of being close to California, and so a lot of our students came from California, and the great schools in California, but the cost comparison was, even with out-of-state tuition, was favorable for ASU in a lot of cases. And so, plus we had, I think, some advantages in terms of our student teaching program that we had. So we did, we met our goals. It was a challenge though, and I think We had adjusted down some of our enrollment goals, you know, because, and I think in general that a number of, particularly undergrad, the enrollment in colleges of ed is declined in recent years. Yes, sir.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the process that you went through to develop all this collateral. So who was involved and whose perspectives were you relying on to determine whether or not the message was, on target, and just
Sure.
in general, sort of the process that you used to develop the collateral?
Sure. So, well, I'll start with the platform, and that was, I saw an opportunity to kind of take a first pass at it as a working group. And the working group was, I think, initially exclusively staff, but we included students in the staff we locked ourselves in a room and kind of started to flesh it out. And then once we got through that process, we engaged students and then also external stakeholders, donors, some of the people that had a particular interest in the college, and very importantly, faculty. And one of the things I'm proud of is when we initially had a little different wording about the research in the product side, and the faculty, we got a very good response from the working group we had with the faculty, but they wanted to see that beefed up, and so we listened to them and we beefed it up, and it made, I think, the platform better, and they were genuinely appreciative of, hey, you're listening to us, you heard what we were talking about, and actually, and as you know, the faculty is an extremely important stakeholder in all of this, and that so after I presented this in front of the Teachers College, and the representative from the faculty group got up and said, I want to thank Phil for listening to us here, and so that was like as good as it could get, because she was well respected, and it wasn't kind of staff versus faculty thing, or this is the administration. It really was a collaborative effort. So that's how we put that piece together. In terms of the collateral itself, we had a small team. We worked with an agency on the design, the overall design kind of elements, and then once we had that, we did a lot of the work on our own. So they kind of laid it out. And then, as I mentioned, those templates and whatnot, once we had those developed, we were able to very quickly, make changes without sending them over the agency, incurring a lot of costs, waiting, things like that. So we used them, I think, pretty thoughtfully. And again, we got lots of arm in arm with the recruiting team. Worked very closely with faculty representative. The faculty representative for that program was always on the team, and so our goal was that we wanted the entire group to feel very good about it, and not, where'd you come up with this kind of thing. So, anybody else? Yes, sir.
Bill, could you speak so you've showed us a bunch of different marketing materials, which is really exciting and interesting. Could you talk a little bit about other platforms, like videos or blogs or Instagram, those types of promotional type activities?
Great question. And I didn't have any screenshots of that, but yes, we did social media. We had an active social media presence. Lots of videos. We were fortunate to have a videographer who had worked at a news station who would just crank out videos very well. And now with videos, I mean, you can take really nice videos on an iPhone. So you don't need equipment. Sound is important, and so that's one of the things that, getting an external mic or something like that is important, because you want to be able to, have that clarity sonically as well. So we did lots of that. We had a student intern that was involved in a lot of our social media, and with oversight from one of the people on our team. Mostly, and at that time, it was really Facebook and Twitter, pretty much. There wasn't, it was like 2013, so the old days.
The old days.
Some of you may have been around at that time. And yeah, primarily that, but lots of videos, lots of, I think, social media and other media that you discussed. Yes, please.
Could you speak in general, whether it was at your time at ASU or in Georgia, just in general about your method for reputation management?
Yes. So if it's created by the marketing team, it's pretty straightforward usually, because you have your brand platform and you're always thinking about that reputation, frankly, when you're developing this. So you don't want to be misleading. You want your faculty and other key stakeholders to say, yeah, this is great, we're happy with this. You want your students to look at it and go, oh yeah, if it's a prospective student, I want to come there. If it's a current student, yeah, this is what it's like, and this is why I came here. So I think that those are all very important. And with regard to social media, what we did at GSFC is we created a social media guidelines, like a policy. And this is a balance on social. It's a balance, because you really don't want this has to go through 10 approvals before I can post it, because you're just going to lose the conversational benefits of why people are on social media. But you also have to be concerned about your reputation and who does what. So we created a policy, and actually we went a step further and went into personal social media, because a lot of times people have their employer listed on their personal social media, and then that gets shared or linked to the schools, or in this case, Georgia Student Finance Commission, and then people see that. So we created a policy about using the employee handbook as the guideline for posting, certainly on GSFC pages. But even in personal pages, don't share anything that you wouldn't share that's confidential for the organization. Think about, if you're talking about something work-related and you're getting into it or engaging or whatever, you really need to think about that can escalate into other realms. And so, and it is a balance, because you want that conversation, you want that flow, but you absolutely need to protect your reputation. So it's a challenge. I think having a specific guideline is a good thing. It's just one other thing where it's like, okay, here's what it says, and here's what I did, and is this consistent with what I did? I like the idea of tying it to really the employee handbook, in this case, the values of the organization, what you're responsible for, how if somebody, particularly in media and public relations, the thing we used to say, and I think still say is, is this okay, if this is on the front page of the Rocky Mountain News or the Denver Post or whatever, are you okay with that? So when you're doing